Welcome to the Hmong Peeps Show, the one and only show that brings you ordinary people sharing extraordinary insights. Well, maybe. Here is your host, QFN Lee.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Chu. Welcome to the Hmong Peeps Show. How was your 4th of July weekend? I hope you guys had a better one than I did. My 4th of July weekend began with, fun, happy times, just, spending time with family that came out of state. And then Sunday morning, we received news that one of our relatives committed suicide. So that changes things around a little bit. So now our 4th of July will never be the same. And I joke about this here and there, but I'm serious about it at the same time. And that is regarding special holidays. So when there is something tragic that happens around holidays, it changes that day forever, or that holiday forever. And the joking part about it is to say, if you guys are gonna do something bad or hurt yourself, do it on another day. Don't do it around the holidays, because that just changes things for a lot of people. Of course, the better solution is to not, harm yourself at all. But some people, you can't really control how people are going to resolve their issues that they're dealing with. So that's what my family and we've been dealing with for the past few days. It's tough because this guy, he's my first cousin, and we were close. He's only, I think, 26 years old. There were no signs of, depression, at least not that we were aware of. But every time we saw him, he was always happy, joking, just, a fun guy to be around with. And the last time I spoke with this guy was the weekend before July 4th. We were at a wedding and just, catching up, talking bullshit about stuff. And then Sunday, he does that. It's been tough. And, a lot of folks have come to me saying, can you read into it, see what happened? But, I told them I'm not in the right mind to be reading this situation, because as you guys have heard me say before, it's not really good to read for family or close friends sometimes, because of the emotional investment that you have in that person or in that situation. And I'm still experiencing, going through the whole grief and loss process. And even though some of us gifted folks can see what's going on the other side, we still have to deal with the grief and loss of the whole physical piece. Spiritually, we know that the person has crossed over or is no longer with us physically, but we miss the physical piece to it. The whole, like, for instance, this guy, I'll never get to shake his hand again. I'll never be able to pat his back and, tell him how proud I am of him, of all his accomplishments. I'll never hear him say, hey, Chu, man, it's good to see you as always, or, good talking to you again. So the physical piece, I'll never get to experience that with him again. And that's the part that I'm going to miss a lot about this guy. He's a good guy overall, but it's just such a shocking event that we are all still trying to piece things together. So today's topic will be about suicide, grief, and loss. Okay? And I want to share with you guys about some signs of detecting when people are going to hurt themselves, or worst case scenario, kill themselves. One of the main hints that we get is when they start talking about depression, talking about how they have nothing to live for. They have no more interests. they're just hopeless. They feel inadequate. They feel worthless, and there's just no motivation. And if somebody talks about these things quite a bit, it's a huge red flag, and I think it's worth paying attention to, and also digging into it more and deeper with that person. Another sign is when they start giving things away to people, out of the blue. They're like, hey, I want you to have this, or I want to give this to so and so. I want to give this to so and so. Or they start selling their items, or just throwing them away unexpectedly. And if you notice that, then it could be a sign that they have plans of leaving this earth sooner than later. Another one is isolation, where all of a sudden they don't want to be around people anymore, and they just are not interested in participating in gatherings or social events. So that's something to look for as well. And if you do have people who you're talking to and are experiencing depression, and they have already mentioned that they might think it's better off if they are dead or if they kill themselves, then you might want to ask them about their plan. How do they plan on doing this to themselves? For folks who are more serious about committing suicide, they usually have a plan, and once you find that out, that they do have a plan, I think it's very, very important that you reach out to either the authorities or to that person's family members, or to someone who can really help this person out. And I know in our community it doesn't happen as much as it should, but in other communities they take that person to the hospital, admit them to the emergency room, and then they get put on a suicide watch or a 72-hour hold until they've done a full assessment to see where this person is mentally. But even with all these signs, there's really no way of really stopping a person from harming themselves. Okay, I mean, I would like to ask you guys to think about how you guys would do it, and I hope you guys don't ever think about hurting yourselves. But in a situation where you really are depressed and you feel like it's the best way is to go out, killing yourself, I think some of us can say, I can do this without telling anybody. I don't need to talk to anybody, and when I'm ready to do it, I'll just do it. So, everybody has that capability. There's really no way of stopping someone from, killing themselves if they've already had that intention. Yeah, you can take them to the ER. They can still do something to themselves while in the hospital, or they'll wait to do what they need to do to get released and then carry on their plan. So the whole guilt piece, if you know about someone who's, very depressed and thinking about killing themselves, and then they do end up doing it, even though you've tried your best to help, it's normal to feel guilty at first, but the reality is, folks, there was no way that you could have really prevented that person from doing that act. And that's something that me and my family are kind of, dealing with right now is, we're all thinking about what could we have done differently. And it's a tough conversation to have, but I think the more important piece to it is, at the end of the day, you can only do what you can. For example, talk to the person, try to get them help. But if that person goes ahead and, follows through with their suicidal plan, don't take it upon yourself and say, it was my fault. No, it's not your fault. That person chose and made a decision, and you did your best. Okay? By the way, this person, my cousin that did this, he has a twin brother. They're identical twins. So the surviving twin, I spoke with him, and I told him, look, we all lost a brother, but I cannot understand what it's like to be a twin and to lose your other half. I will never be able to understand that. So whatever you do from here on out, man, we cannot lose you either. So it was a very tough conversation to have with him, and of course, he was distraught and just devastated, as we all were. But I think to him it means a little bit more because that was his twin. So it's a sad situation overall. So this week, this has been very challenging and difficult for me. Yeah. So I guess to try to make this to end this show on a good note is we have the spiritual retreat coming up this Saturday, and I look forward to seeing a lot of you. I think I'll share more about my thoughts about today's episode during this retreat, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that by then I will feel more energized and be in a better place, but grief and loss, there's really no time limit on how to deal with it. You can't really say you'll get through it in a week. Everybody handles it differently, and I cannot say when my family will be able to get over this. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe never, because this was a good guy. And now that I think about it, I think he is the first of our generation, my generation, to have passed. And I come from a big family. My generation, we have a whole bunch of us. And he's the first guy to cross over. The first of our generation to cross over. So it's tough. Okay, so that's it. I hope this show didn't bring down your moods or whatever, but just something I thought it was important to talk about, the whole suicide piece, and how to, I guess, detect some of these signs, and hopefully give or get help to people who you might know who are going through some tough times. All right, folks, take it easy, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.